that. If you go, and even if you sat there and you put it on your elbow or something like that, unless you secure it properly in place, it could easily leak. Okay, so just remember that. So sometimes if I'm dealing with people and if I can see that I might just wrap an old towel around it, a rag around it, just wear it so it just doesn't leak. Just remember that. But it really works. Excellent for burns. By the way, if on that, for a poultice for that leg ulcer, I would have folded the poultice in. Even though the leg ulcer was maybe the size of a 20-cent piece, I would make a big parcel like that over the area. I wouldn't make just a tiny little one. I'd make it because I want to pull it all out through the skin. So you can put this anywhere there's inflammation. I was once went down at Mountain View when Barbara O'Neill was treating a man with testicular cancer, and I can remember him there. They were doing potato poultice through the day, and they were doing a castor oil poultice at night. And within 2 weeks, that testicular cancer had shrunk half the size. It gave him confidence to keep going because the doctor said operation straight away. No, he said, give me time. So he went, and actually I found out that he was cured of it. So there is hope. You can do things like this. How long do you leave it on for? As I said, maybe 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours, 2 at the least, 4. But sometimes I leave it on overnight. There's no rule that you have to take it off overnight. But generally, if you leave it on, it does its work, right? And it's best to put a new one on. I was once watching a clip on natural remedies, and this man there, he had been burned. He had facial burns. He went into a room that had a gas leak, and he lit a match in there, and whoosh, all over his face. And they did this. They used potato to calm those burns down, and they put it on. Then only his nose was, because his eyes would have swollen up. They lay him down, and they kept taking off that, just scraping off it, just gently off the top, and repacking more on it because it feels very cool, very. Is that better? Okay. Good. Okay. Where was I up to? Okay, so I can hear myself now. Good. Okay. So he was burnt, and what was within days they could see that he was going to get better. He took that burn out, and I don't think he even blistered. Okay, and they knew that it was 3rd-degree burns. Very, very bad. So just remember, potato is excellent. These are remedies that God has given us. And can I tell you, there's one thing when I'm working with people all the time too, I'm always praying that God will bless this remedy, because these are simple home remedies that he's given us. I don't believe it's his design that we use these drugs, so there's many times we can avoid going to the hospital and the doctors, and we can use something as simple as this. And what's more, once you start doing them, you get very confident and you see, wow, they do work. Do they? Okay. Okay, so I want to move on now. I want to share with you about an onion poultice. Now, I'm not going to do this. I'll tell you how to do it because it takes time and I want to get through a lot more. So what do you do with an onion poultice? Okay, onion poultice is really interesting because this is an antibiotic poultice. I would put this, I would normally use this raw, with the exception on your chest. If someone has chest congestion, they need to have it warm. You don't want to put cold onion or cold anything on someone who's got a chest complaint. So I put warm onion, and I steam this lightly. I probably steam it for, 7 minutes or so, chop it up, steam it, and then I'd cool it down and make sure that it's not too hot, and then I'd fold it to a... Now, this particular chuck's liner is very narrow. Sometimes I want to make a larger parcel and I don't have wide enough chuck, so I just get my sewing machine out and I just sew a seam down there and I just open it out. So then if I would that's how wide it would be. You know, and I could make it larger. Sometimes you get a wider chucks. So I would sew it down and it becomes wider. So you could have that. And so I would put this over, let's say I folded it over the chest area and maybe that large over the chest area. Obviously you don't want to burn the patient. Then I would put a piece of plastic. Now generally I don't do plastic glad wrap over here because it just sort of goes, you know, it doesn't hold its shape. I just used an old shopping bag or something like that, a plastic shopping bag, put it over, then put some tight clothes over the top of that. Once you put the tight clothes over, it'll stay in place. And then generally, if it's a chest infection, I would put over the top of that, I would put a hot water bottle. Feels beautiful. It really does. And you'll know that that really brings the chest congestion out. Very good for people who've got fluid on the lungs too. So it does work. So that's over for the onion poultice. You can fold it up. Now what I would do here, if I was putting it on the feet, I would just get it on a breadboard. I'd slice it quite thinly. I'd fold it into a poultice about like this, if I'm going to put it on the feet, you know, however big your feet are. And then when I've got it on my breadboard, I would just get the rolling pin over it and roll it. What I want to do is I want to smash up the cells in the onion because I want it sort of to be a bit weep or wet, get a little bit wet. Now remember, a wet poultice does work. It works better, but there is a fine line of being too wet and it dribbles everywhere against just being just right. Now if you get it too wet, you can save it by just mixing a little bit of maybe white flour in it or clay in it or Epsom salts. You can, anything that dries it up, even rolled oats I've stirred into it. So you can use it. Although one day I only had tapioca flour and I stirred it in and it set like a plaster of Paris. I didn't realise that, so that was, but this is the onion poultice on the feet. Now this is the poultice you do for people who have asthma. You put it on the soles of their feet. Then I would put their foot there like that. I'd wrap the glad wrap around it. Although quite frankly, this is awkward, that huge pack like that. I've got a small packing tape. Ideal, absolutely ideal. And it's plastic and you just wrap it around just like that. So you'd put one on one side and it stops the asthma, just cuts the asthma just like that. And if you don't know, if you've never tried it, you just try it and you'll see it works. So, but you know, you can use it, especially if little kids are coughing at night, you know, you just... sometimes people, you know how you cough and cough and cough at night and it only happens at night time, you're not coughing in the day. There's another thing you can do is, I can remember once that happened to me, and someone told me get a dot of frankincense oil and put it in that part of you know, in that hollow, just above your neckline there, and just like that, it just cut the coughing out. Probably for about 15 minutes, I started coughing a bit, I did it again. And after about 1 to 2 nights, the coughing was completely gone. Frankincense oil, absolutely wonderful to use, but it's very expensive. A tiny little bottle costs well over $100. So, but it's worth it. See, it is super healthy, super good. Yeah. Okay. How much? Okay. Okay, so I, I was in a over in America just before COVID, and I was doing some natural remedies to a class like this. It was quite a large class. It was in a church next to Loma Linda University, where there's a lot of doctors there. And the man who got me there was a medical doctor himself, and he said to me, "There's a lot of doctors in the audience tonight." And I was doing just this, just like I'm talking about there, like that. And at the end of it, one lady put her hand up, and she said she's a doctor, and she wanted to tell everybody there was 2 patients she was working with. One had paraplegia. She'd been in a car accident, and what they did is they used onion poultices down the spine. Now, what you'd do if you have onion poultices down the spine, you'd cut your, however large the spine is, let's say you cut your chucks off there, and then you just fold your onion over into a long poultice going there, right like that. She did onion poultices down the spine, and she said that it was probably, by my memory, it was like 3 months, and they got the person walking again. And she said, and then she also added, and I don't know how long it was, but she said there was a quadriplegia there, and they worked on his spine, and and I can't remember, but there was definitely movement there again. She said, and then would you believe, a fella down the back of the room put his hand up, and he says, "Oh, I remember my little brother, when my little brother was small, had polio, and I remember my mother just smothering him in onions." And he said he walks again after he had polio. And then the doctor himself who organised the thing, he said, "I was over in Africa doing a mission trip," and he says, there was a great big pot. The women were cooking in the pot, and there were stones on the ground, and the pot fell over on a woman and burnt all her thighs, right up her legs. And they said to him, "Quick, you're a doctor, do something." And he says, "Oh, have you got any potato? Remember potato for burns?" And they said, "No, but we got onions." He says, "Okay, we'll just use the onions." And so they put onions on it, and you know what? Just like that, it just stopped the pain and took everything away. And they said after a day or so, he looked at it again, and he said, "This is going to heal." And again, they put another lot on the next day, and only a couple of days. That's all he had to do it for. See, it's amazing, because sometimes you can get even the poultices mixed up, and you know what? God still blesses them. But onion poultices, it gave me a new respect for onion poultices when I heard this, because I realised too, when they were saying it, a very good way, especially if you're working down the spine, you can actually get a lot more results. Because you look at the spine, it's like the central nervous system. You know, we forget about it. Hydrotherapy down the spine, which I'll talk about tomorrow night. Onion. Okay, so that's onion. Yes? Yes? I actually believe you're right, because I know that in the island countries you would have not as much access to like potato, you know, like these sort of potatoes. You've got many more sweet potatoes, taros and cassava. I believe all of those could be used. I don't know exactly what for, but I tell you what, I know that you can use them, because I know you can use the belly leaves. You can use, they're comfrey. They don't have comfrey over there. We have comfrey here. So they use that, and it works the same. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense, doesn't it? So, and not only that, for an onion, getting back to the onion, if you let's say you have the flu or something like that, you can just cut an onion up and slice it and put it next to your bed and sleep with your onions, sliced onion next to your bed, and it's going to absorb all the toxins around it into the onion. Remember how often we've been told, don't have a cut onion in your fridge, you know? Why? Because it absorbs all the odours, doesn't it? And remember, all of these will actually get quite smelly. Once you finish with them, you just got to toss them out, obviously. You know that's where they go, tossed out. Okay, now I haven't got any cabbage here, but I know that you all know what cabbage looks like, don't you? Cabbage leaves. What I do for a cabbage poultice, I would get the outside leaves of a cabbage. Now, my favourite are those Chinese cabbage, which, like type, not bok choy, they're large Chinese. They come up like that and they shape the Chinese cabbage. I've found that they're the best because they're very juicy. Now, what I do, and I find drumhead cabbages are quite, they don't have much moisture in them. But what you do is you cut the stem out, you put it on a breadboard and get your rolling pin on it and break the cells in the cabbage leaf. And then you pack the cabbage leaf around your whatever injury. Maybe you've got, now what does a cabbage poultice do? It pulls out fluid. So if you've got a swollen knee, you've got something wrong with your knee, this is ideal with it, or your elbow, or wherever on your body. I actually worked with a man, I was in Tonga once, and he had swollen legs. He had diabetic legs. Now, I want to just also preface this by saying that sometimes you've got to watch what drugs people are on, because sometimes if you're working with people and you're telling them, do a cabbage poultice on the leg. If they're on certain drugs, those drugs actually, one of the side effects is fluid in the legs. So you just got to realise sometimes you can't work with somebody and doing a natural remedy if they're on drugs. It can contraindicate one another. But this man, he had diabetes and he'd been to the hospital, couldn't help him. He'd been to the doctor, couldn't help him. So he came to us. He was the brother of the lady where we were staying. Anyhow, he said he didn't know whether, as I said, he didn't know whether to put them down or up. So what I said to the ladies, there were some Fijian women there. I said, we all worked together because I was there teaching them the health topics and the remedies. The women there were teaching them cooking, because they were teaching them with Islander cooking. And the man said that his legs, as I said, that they were very, very sore. He didn't know what to do with them. So I said to the ladies, let's get some potato poultice. Okay, we did a potato poultice over both the legs, and it worked well, but I thought, boy, potatoes, those years they were $5 a kilo, and I used the whole kilo up on his legs, and I thought, this is not good economy. So I said, look, I tell you what, you buy me 2 cabbages at the market, you bring them to me, and I will do them. So we did the cabbage, and I got the cabbage and rolled the whole cabbage out by the rolling pin on a breadboard. And we got some Glad wrap, we laid Glad wrap on it. You put it on a tray or somewhere, and then you put the Glad wrap, and then you put the cabbage leaves on, and then you get them to put their leg over it, and you bring up you wrap the whole leg as best as you can, cover it in cabbage leaves and Glad wrap it in place to hold it in place. Then I put a garbage bag over his legs because I sent him home. It was night. In the morning he came back and he went quick, 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 quick as he walked. Guess what? It was so wet in there. Okay, so we opened up them and we cut that whole bag off. We just used the scissors and threw that all away. I washed his legs in soap and water, did the same thing in the morning, did the same thing that night, morning, night, morning, night, morning, and you could pinch the skin out of around his legs. Just went down. Now, I am not saying every single time it's going to go down. I did another one on a lady who was very late stages cancer. She had a huge arm, lymphedema, and she said to me, she said, Kaye, I know this will work. She was somebody I knew quite well. I know this will work. When I did it, it did work to a degree, but I could see that it's so powerful it was going to start ulcerating her arm. It was going to pull out stuff through the skin. She didn't need that late stages cancer. Wasn't going to do anything. Why I'm saying that is there is a time, it's like a cut-off time. If you're waiting till somebody is very late stages and then you start doing these things, they're not going to work near as well as if you get them right at the very beginning. So, cabbage poultices. You can put them on they pull out fluid. So another one, a young woman, she was a therapist, and she said she was working at a health retreat, and they were treating women who had lymphedema, and they were doing cabbage poultices on the lymphedema, and in the morning they'd come and they'd find all this brown juicy stuff in the poultice, which was pulled out of their arms. She said they did an experiment. They used organic versus inorganic cabbages, and she said the organic worked slightly better, but the inorganic worked too. So if you only can get them from the supermarket, just use them. When I was once in that time in Tonga, I went over to another island called Vavau, which is a beautiful island, but that's only got a population of 15,000. And I went in there. I just landed at the airport, and this woman who picked me up took me to this place, and there was around in a hall there would have been nearly 30 women sitting around ready just to watch me and get educated on poultices. And I thought, okay, I don't have anything ready. I've just got off the plane. What have I got here? I hadn't been anywhere to get any potatoes, any onions. I thought, what do I do? I said, do you have any cabbage? Because this was a place where they were growing. It was an agricultural place, and they did have a market garden that they were growing some vegetables for the market. And I said to her, have you got any cabbage? She said, no, but I've got lettuce. I said, that'll do. They had these beautiful green, beautiful iceberg lettuce that were so healthy. You knew they looked healthy. You could just see it. And they were just so green. Not the normal iceberg lettuce that we may get from our supermarkets. Anyway, I said, that will do. And I said to the people, now this is how you do a cabbage poultice. Everyone, you know this is lettuce, but I'm going to show you how to use this leaf as a cabbage. As you would a cabbage. And so I showed them how to roll it out, and I packed, anybody got a sore knee? And there was a lady, she had a sore knee. And she came up to the front, and I said, okay, let's put this on your knee. And so as she put it on her knee, I sent her home. The next day she came back and she says, look at me. You know what? The lettuce poultice worked. Sometimes I just get amazed. I think to myself, this is not supposed to work. Lettuce, it's supposed to be cabbage, but lettuce works too. So you can do it. So we know that nowadays they use cabbage. A lot of the hospitals are using cabbage for nursing mothers. That's very good for the breasts, if they've got engorged breasts or mastitis or anything like that in there. Another lady, she comes to my class. She had these 2 huge cysts on her back, and she went to the doctors and got one cut out, only for it to grow back. So she decided she would do cabbage alternated with potato cabbage poultice. And she said it took about 2 weeks and it came out. Sometimes it will come out just draw out through the skin. sometimes it just disperses via your bloodstream. Your body knows which way it will go, so it will just do the way it goes. But generally, like something like that will, not so much, it will just take the inflammation out. It'll just, the swelling in it will just go down further and further and further and further. So that is, any questions? Over, yes? Yes. No? And she had a heated potato. Okay, now that brings it to mind, because I can remember one of my classes that I had, one woman came to me and she said she was in South Africa when she was a little baby and her mother saved her life by putting cooked pumpkin all over her. Pumpkin, cooked pumpkin. And I just think to myself, sometimes I hear these stories back and I don't question it because, this is just her testimony. She said, my life was saved from the cooked pumpkin. And, a lot of countries have culture of using these things, especially your islanders. And a lot in European countries, in those Eastern European countries, a lot of them use poultices. So you can use them. Okay, but as I said, you could even use your lettuce. There's no reason. You see, I've used carrot poultices. Now, I've used carrot poultices over the neck. This is a very good one for I've just lost it. Not thyroid, it's I just can't even think of it. No, glands. Not tonsillitis, it's just glandular fever. Okay, glandular fever. Okay, can't even remember. I suppose this would also work for mumps, anything like that, any of the swollen glands under there. Okay, so I would make a long poultice like that, and I would do it, because my granddaughter came in. My daughter said to me, Mum, Sarah's got glandular fever. And how long have I got? She said, I'll send her in out of school. She was a teenager. And sometimes kids can get glandular fever and it can last months, weeks and months. It takes a long time. So I did it around her neck. The only thing I regret is the fact that I put her to bed with it around the neck. And guess what? It just leaked all over the pillowcase and it was orange. And so I just thought, this is no good. So, yeah. You see, you've got to be careful when you're doing poultices because they do leak at night. And they can mess up your linen. So just sometimes, some places, I know some people have said that when they go to Misty Mountain, they don't do poultices at night. This is what I was told, I don't know. But because it can mess up all the sheets. So they'll do there's certain poultices you can do which don't mess up your sheets. Like maybe you could... Oh, no, I think it was the castor oil that they don't do. Anyhow, I can't remember what it was, but they don't do them at night. So, but you can do, as I said, carrot would be an excellent poultice for your neck. Done the same way as cabbage. Just grate it up. Remember, it's the moisture in it. And remember, I'm always, as I'm doing these with people, I'm praying because God is the one who you give him honor and glory because he's the one who's bringing healing through and he will work through these things. Now, I've got some slippery elm here. Slippery elm is one that I'm just going to touch on because slippery elm is the bark of a tree. Now, slippery elm will work in a similar way than potato works. But slippery elm is a lot dearer. If you're going to make a poultice like a much larger poultice, you're going to use a lot more slippery elm, and it's, a little bag of slippery elm is going to cost you whatever it is. I can't tell you what it is now, but it's going to cost you more. So you wouldn't use it in the same way that you'd use potato. But the slippery elm is an excellent poultice. It draws. And And I especially like this for any little sores or little, like school sores or any little boils or anything like that. They will pull out the toxins out of your, out of your, you know, the school sores that kids get on their legs? Excellent for them. Oh, well, I'm getting hot here. It's true. Kim, it says it's hot up here. But anyhow, I'll just take my jacket off. I'll be right. I'll just leave my jacket here. So, back to slippery elm. I made it to a paste. My granddaughter, one of my granddaughters had its gate. She was 2 and she had a gate swing shut on, caught her in the back of the heel, and it pierced her Achilles tendon. She had an operation, had to rejoin it, went to hospital, you know, plaster, all that. After the plaster came off, there were still some stitches deep in underneath that were stopping, and they were swelling, and on the back of her heel, and she couldn't wear a shoe. And so I said to my daughter, make a tiny little poultice of, just you would use about a half a teaspoon of this, and just mix a little bit of water to get to a paste. Put it on 2 Band-Aids. I crisscrossed the Band-Aids, or she did. I told her, I wasn't there. I told her to crisscross the Band-Aids, and within 2 days, she said she could see them coming to the head, and she just went, boop, and it out. Just gave it a gentle squeeze, and it just came out. But when she went back to the doctor had told her she needed to go in, and they'd have to have surgery to get those stitches out. So can you see how you can pull things through the skin? So it is a drawing poultice. I use this internally also. It's very good for digestion. Anytime you've got any problems in your digestion, use slippery elm. Make it into a drink. You mix it up. It's all in my book, all these remedies, but you just mix it with a little bit of hot water before you stir it with cold water. And what happens is it mixes, it's okay, and you can put a little bit of honey in it if you want to, and you can just drink it down. Sometimes I just drink it down. I don't put honey in it. I just drink it down. Okay, so it works. Coats your digestive tract right through. So you can use it. Oh, by the way, it also regrows tissue. It is. There was a lady. She rang me up and she said to me, Kaye, she said, I've had an operation just above the waist, under the breast. She says I've got an opening there. She described it. It was like that size, and she said she went to the hospital and she got golden staph in it. Went back to the hospital, the doctor scraped it out, only to get it again. And so she rang me up, she said, what do I do? I said, make a poultice of slippery elm. Now, a poultice is just make it into a paste with water. You have to work it through. You'll see how much water you need. Put it straight on the skin. You don't need it in a pack. Put it straight on the skin. Put a covering over it, however you want to cover it. You can just cover it with a bit of anything, cloth or a bandage or something like that, and just tape it in place. And she said within a week, she said it was really healing up nicely. Slippery elm is what they used in the American Civil War, when men would be shot and a lot of their flesh was shot away. This they'd pack in there, and what it does, it regrows tissue. Now you can, if somebody's got bed sores, this is fantastic. You can use for bed sores. You can use this. So just remember these things. These are hints for you to use, and just start using them. Practice them. Once you start doing them, you get so much confidence with them and you realize, wow, these really work. Plus, you can actually use slippery elm as an excellent hair conditioner. Wash your hair, shampoo your hair, mix it a little bit more water. I would put it not quite as thick, quite runny, and just put it on your hair, leave it for a couple of hours and then just rinse it out. Excellent hair conditioner. You'll love it. Another one is my grandson. He was a teenager at that stage and he had this huge blind pimple in the middle of his eye, his eyebrows there, right in the middle of, just there. It was a huge, and he was about 16 at the time, and he'd had it there for about 6 months and it just wouldn't go away. And he said to me, he came and visited me, and I said, okay, what's that there? And he said, blind pimple. I said, I know how to get rid of that. So what I did was put that on it. Would you believe? He was so happy. You know what? 16 years old and this big blind pimple there, it just was embarrassing for him. And I think it would be for most people. So what he did is he used that, and he was a happy boy. Okay, so that is slippery elm. Now what am I going to work at next? I'll go for castor oil next. When Kim said that we forgot the castor oil here, but I said, I travel with a bit of castor oil in my suitcase. So I had castor oil in my case. So this is just my little bottle of castor oil that I carry around with me wherever I go. Now I use, and you need to be careful, because if you're decanting castor oil into a little bottle like this, you really need to have it in glass, which means, because you have to be careful what plastics you put castor oil in, because it actually pulls out, the properties of the plastic. You need to be aware of that. So what do you use castor oil for? Any suggestions? We're talking about outside, not talking about internally. Pardon? You use it on your skin, yes. What, straight? Just, you put it... Okay, great. Yeah, any more suggestions? Warts? Yes. Or yes. Yeah, inside your belly button. Good, I'm glad you're hearing it. Come on. You're drinking it. Oh, you're drinking it. Okay, well, you're brave, but you can drink it. Obviously you haven't dropped over dead. Okay, so you can have it internal. Well, I'm not going to have it internally. I'm not talking about that now. Get into trouble over that one. Okay, on the outside we're talking about. So, excellent for a liver cleanse. You want to cleanse your liver? Now, what I would do if I was doing a liver cleanse, I would get an old cloth, maybe something like an old face washer or something like that, toweling, and maybe I'd go for, and I'd just blend, and I'd just drizzle a little bit of castor oil over it, and I would just smooth it out, put it over the liver area, put a bit of plastic over there, and just put it in place. Now, I've got some belts, which I bought with online, which had little mini hot water bottles in it. And these belts are like, they hold any poultice in place, and they got long straps on the end, and the straps have got Velcro on the end. And they're ideal, because I can put any poultice over my waist, over my chest, over anywhere, over my abdomen. I can turn it around, I can put it on the back, and I can bring the ends over here, and I can just Velcro them together. I just love them. I've just used those so often for poultices. I got them online, and I got them with hot water bottles. I got a mini hot water, they're little hot water bottle containers. Belts, I think that's what they call. I don't remember what they're called, but they're really handy. Really handy. Another woman, actually that's on the charcoal, but another woman made a belt. She actually made a belt of calico, and she put it around her kidney area, and she was a large woman, and she just had them around here, and she had Velcro over here, keeping it in place. And in the back, where the two kidneys are, she put curtain material for when the poultice, that poultice could go in there, that poultice could go in there, and she put them on her back to keep them on. You see, when you're doing poultices, you have to work out where and how do you keep these in place. They're not easy to keep in place. Let's have a drink. Yep. Yeah, I would put a bit of, you can actually buy online, you can buy castor oil packs. They are great. And they've just got the pack there like that. They're coated with sort of like a flannelette type of material, but they've got long straps coming around and you just put them in place. They are great. So that's castor oil. So how would I put them on? I would generally, sometimes you might want to put them on at night, sometimes you want to put them on at day, depending when you feel that you feel okay. Sometimes I'd say I don't like castor oil on at night time in the summertime because it's hot. I prefer that if I was going to do it, and in the winter time I would probably do it during the I don't know, more winter time is a little bit different because you can handle the restriction around you because you've got a lot more clothes over it. But in the summertime it can get pretty hot. So you just need to work out when you're going to do the castor oil. Yep. Yep. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I haven't heard of that one. Look, castor oil will break up lumps and bumps and cysts and tumours. It's good for anything. It's great for sciatica. It's a good pain relief. You can use it practically anywhere on your body, externally. If you want to take it internally, which some people do, that's your call, right? But I'm not promoting that internally, but I'm just talking about the external use of it. And you can have it, you can even have it for irritable bowel over in your skin. You can make a poultice over the area. Now, I wouldn't do it, as I said, Chuck's poultice with castor oil. I have done castor oil poultices using paper towels. That will work. And this paper towel is a little bit thicker. It's sort of like there's a little bit of texture to it. If some paper towels are so thin, you don't get much texture to them, but this would work. I would make a poultice and put it over the liver area like that, anywhere on the body. You can put it wherever. Very good for the even for fibroids, although another way you can do it for fibroids is you can use, especially for women who've got fibroids, they can get those panty liners, pads, and they've got a sticky back to them, and they can just tuck them in behind their briefs, and they allow the briefs to keep them in place, and they can put that all overnight or however long on that over that fibroid area. You can use it over, as I said, sciatica, constipation, irritable bowel, fibroids, cysts. Generally, some people have fibrocystic breast lumps. You can rub that over the fibrocystic breast lumps. And how long do you have to keep it up for? Well, how long did the lump take to appear there? Sometimes it may be you have to be doing it for weeks or months. Yes? Sorry, I can't hear you. For the belly button, what I just do is put a little bit of castor oil on the palm of my hand, and I just get it and I'll put it in my belly button, And the rest of it I just rub over my skin like that, or wherever. Oh, look, it helps for a lot of things, a lot of women problems. Look, I can't remember every single thing it helps for, but I know that it's very good for women.
I actually use it and create natural handmade soap. I create natural soap and I put castor oil in as it adds extra lather.
I know we got a lady who comes to our classes. She does castor oil in the hair shampoo.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I've been using that recipe hair shampoo for probably 30 years now. Just use a soap on the hair. Yeah, my head of hair. Yeah. Okay. That was the other thing. Remember, I told you the man with, and this is something you can do. The man, a friend of mine, or he actually was a cousin of mine. He had he had prostate cancer. Beg your pardon, prostate cancer. And I told his wife to put castor oil, tuck it in behind the scrotum, and I told her what to use. I was thinking, oh, what can I tell her to put it on? Got to get a pack. I said, get a lady's menstrual pack and cut it in half, tuck it in behind the scrotum, and she said, they told me that worked really well. And how do you keep it in place? And I thought, oh, get a pair of your wife's pantyhose and cut them off at the legs. And they said every night they had a good laugh. Yeah, so sometimes that can be also help too, can't it? Yeah. Yes? And what did it do? I said, why did you want to have mustard oil in the skin? There you go. I didn't know that. But mustard oil, look, you can try anything and it works. Don't get yourself worried if you get the wrong one, So what if you get the wrong one? What harm can you do putting a bit of castor oil on the outside of your body? You're not going to just cause a lot of problems. And usually you can use these sort of things even if you've got medication or you're doing some treatment for something, because it's not going to harm the medication. You're using it on the outside of your body. But I've actually, and by the way too, those fibrocystic breast lumps that women can get in the class. One day I was having a class and I was talking about fibrocystic breast lumps, and I said fibrocystic breast lumps, as far as my research goes, is often can be caused by women eating chocolate. And there was one lady in the front row and she says, I got fibrocystic breast lumps and I eat chocolate. So just remember that. Okay, now this is one you can use for hemorrhoids too. What I would do for hemorrhoid, I would get a cotton ball, soak castor oil on the cotton ball, and then put it in the deep freeze. And then you get it out. Once it's frozen, get it out and pop it over that hemorrhoid and allow the buttocks to hold it in place, and it will just relieve a hemorrhoid just like that. That's how they go. Another thing, if anyone's got a fissure, which can be very, very, very painful, especially women can get them after childbirth, it can be so painful. And what you would do then is you would get, and this is what a woman told me she did, and she said it just worked like a charm. She got aloe vera leaves and she filleted them, took all the green leaf off, so she just had the gel, but she lay the gel out and she put it in the deep freeze and froze it and cut it into a shape like a suppository and inserted that into her rectum, and she said it worked like a charm. Aloe vera, pure, because you couldn't put aloe vera in if it wasn't frozen. It would just, Yeah, you couldn't put it in. So how do you get it in? So freeze it first. You could use also that on hemorrhoids. So you could do all of those things there. I actually use castor oil, and I make castor oil into a face cream, and I just use castor oil, water, and emulsifying wax. I've used it for years as a face cream. I love it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just show you what I would do on this, making this into a pack. I would just put a little bit of castor oil on it. And then what I'll do is I spread it out, and depending how much you put on, sometimes you would put on a lot more, depending what you're treating. But I want to show you how I'm going to turn this into a cayenne pack. Cayenne pepper. What do you use cayenne pepper for? Yes? Okay, we've got two. Well, first of all, we'll talk about it externally, and then I'll bring it to the internal after we finish the external. Okay, so cayenne pepper. What you do, there's two ways you can apply this on your skin outside. Now, this is a heating poultice. If you put this on somewhere on your body, it will heat up and heat up and heat up and heat up. It will get that hot that you really want to get it off. If you get the amount right, you'll find it very good. But so you may have to adjust it to work out to find out how much you put on. So, how much do I put on? Well, I'll just show you. I'll just sprinkle some on here. Now, what I'm doing here, if I sprinkled it somewhere, and you can sprinkle cayenne pepper straight into your socks, but guess what? It just gets dispersed all through your socks and goes into your shoes and everywhere. So what I do is I put a little bit of oil on the paper or the cloth that you're going to use it, and then I just coat. Oh, God, the air conditioner's blowing it all around. How much do you put on? How much can you handle? Now, pardon? It burns what? Okay, that much. Some people can handle that much, some people can't. Now, generally, if you've got a lot of uric acid in your body, you cannot handle much. It burns very quickly. Mostly, I find that women can handle more than this. Men seem to be a little bit more just careful with the pain. I don't know whether it's a woman versus man thing that women can handle more pain. I don't know. But I do know that I put it on a young man who was a rugby player for Tonga. And I said to him, because he had a bad ankle and he was recovering because he was out of action. So he was at the house. He was the son of that lady I was staying with. And I said to him, I'll put one on your foot. And so he came up and I did it. This was at a huge demonstration. We had plenty of people there. And he was there and I put it over his foot. And I said, now, there's one thing you could understand. When you have a cayenne poultice, if it gets too hot, take it off. There's no rule that says you've got to bear with it for 8 hours or 4 hours. Just take it off, if you can't handle it. And you know what? His came off very, very quickly. And I thought to myself, isn't it interesting? And he's this big, tough rugby player, and yet the little old ladies, they can handle it for, yeah. Now, you can do it with cayenne, as I said, with oil and I just sprinkle it on the top. Now, that's a lot. If you can't handle that much, you have to work how much you can handle. And I don't know if anyone wants to try this. Does anyone want to try it on their arm or anywhere like that? How come they're all pointing to you? Do you want to try it on your knee? Can you get your knee bared? Have you got enough? Can you pull your trousers up? Now the other way you can do it is to mix it with flour and cayenne pepper and water and make it into a paste and do it like a poultice. Now that works nicely too. Yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah. Yes, yeah, come out. Yes. Flour, cayenne pepper and water. How much are you going to put on? I can't remember off. Yeah, okay.
I didn't think I was going to have to sit up here.
We'll just put that over there like that, and I'll get a bit of. Wait a bit. I'll put some of this. A bit of Glad wrap over it. Kim, can you just hold the Glad wrap for me, please? The box is too heavy. The Glad wrap box is too heavy. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
I've done this before myself. Not with cayenne, but with ginger.
Yeah, that should. Yeah. I'll just cut it. There's scissors there. Now we're going to find out, and she's going to let us know how hot that feels in short time. And as I said, don't be frightened to take it off.
You don't have to take it off. Can you like put it back on when you feel brave enough?
Yes, you can. You can reuse castor oil. Castor oil poultice is one of the very few poultices that you can reuse. And if you're doing it over your liver, you can do the same poultice. What I would do next time I would do it, I would add a little bit more castor oil to it because it does soak into your skin. And then just use the same poultice. Now I've got one of those proper ones, those proper castor oil packs, which I bought online from China. And I put it around there, but I washed it. I like to wash it every once in a while because, maybe after about 10 days you want to wash it and just refresh it because it just but you're never going to get the oil out of it. But it's sort of cleaner. Yeah. So we on to cayenne. Now cayenne, that is a heating poultice. But there's another property that it has when you put it on your skin if you've got cuts. What does it do for a cut? Stops the bleeding immediately. I can remember cutting my hand here with slicing it quite deeply, and what I did, and I cut myself quite deeply, and I sprinkled cayenne on it like that, and I just stopped the bleeding like that. I lifted it up, put a bit more cayenne on, just stopped the bleeding, and then it stopped bleeding, and I bandaged it. I didn't take any of that cayenne off. I just left it there until, I'm sorry, I'm just nearly going to sneeze. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be right. Okay. Okay, I think I'm right now. Now, where was I up to? My hand was, and I put that, and I just, then next day, I just caked it all off, sort of washed it, and put some more cayenne and just bandaged it. And it healed so quickly. Now it could slightly sting. It won't be completely painless, but it doesn't sting much. Black pepper would really sting a lot, but cayenne doesn't. Now, any time you've got, you can stop the blood flow, but you've got to sometimes you've got to add pressure to the area. That's what I had to do here to stop it. Sometimes you don't have to add pressure to the area. It will just automatically tend to just slow down of itself. But sometimes you had to add pressure. So that's on the externally. Anytime you could, where else could we externally? I can't just think anything at the moment. I would do, that's another one, there's a lady who she was a nurse, and I did the comfrey, the cayenne poultice, and she folded to a poultice to maybe that size, and she had a bad back. She had a bad lower back. She was a nurse, and her back was wrecked. So all the day long she was wearing a poultice like that as a heating poultice to bring blood to the area, and she said it was just magic. She said she'd get through the day. Absolutely right. That's exactly a great one for gout. Absolutely. Actually, do that. Is it gout? Is it gout on the hands or feet? Yeah, do it for gout. Absolutely. That's a good one, because I know there's a man, he had gout in his hand, would you believe? And he said that he tried a lot of things, and he said he only had to do one treatment with cayenne pepper and it was gone. And I don't say it's going to be the same for everyone, but it was for him. Okay, so you can also take cayenne pepper internally, and some of you would have heard about taking it internally. What does it do internally? Heart attack. Okay, stops a heart attack. You know, I remember hearing a story about down at Mountain View when Barbara was down there, there was a woman, she just keeled over, and they didn't know whether she was having a heart attack or a stroke, but she just fainted on the floor, and her husband says, "Quick, she's having a turn." And Barbara says, go and get the cayenne pepper. So they put it in her mouth, they gave her the cayenne pepper. She came to within a few minutes and she was right again. And I was relating this story in a class that I had at home, and a woman was in the audience, and she said, "Oh, excuse me, I was that lady." And she said she didn't even taste the cayenne pepper in the mouth. I would put in there half a teaspoon at the first, half a teaspoonish, okay? Just get it in, right? Just get it in there. You could, if you can, if there's water there, look, just get the powder into their mouth first, okay? If you can get a bit of water in there, do that, but if you can't, don't worry, okay? My husband Peter was once over here in New Zealand. He was at a camp meeting, and there was a man who had a heart attack there, and he and Evan Sadler went out and they put cayenne pepper in the mouth, and the man just came right. So, and I'll tell you another one. This happened to me. I was over in America in April, and I was doing a class like this, and there was a woman there, and she was a Jamaican woman. And why I said a Jamaican woman is that I found her accent quite hard to understand. I didn't quite get the story really well, but I think I've got it. What she said, her husband was having a heart attack right then and there, right when she said he had all the symptoms. She knew, and she knew he was having a heart attack. And he was sitting next to her, and he was sort of like agreeing along with it. And she said, cayenne pepper. She didn't have any cayenne pepper. So what was she to use? No. What have I done here? I've put mine in this little bottle. It's just a little, it hasn't got a full, it's not a full bottle, it's only got a little bit down the bottom. Oregano oil. Or oregano oil, however you say it. Oregano oil. But this is my oregano oil. And anyhow, I said, "How much did you put in his mouth?" And she said, "A bottle full." And I said, "A bottle full? How big was the bottle?" I thought to myself, well, look, is it a bottle this big or is it a bottle this big? There's a lot of difference there. And she said, no, it was 1 ounce. Now, 1 ounce is like only maybe it's even a smaller bottle than that. So it's a little bottle. So she put a full little bottle in his mouth. And she said, immediately he came out of his heart attack. And I said, and the husband was sitting there, and he says, oh, by the way, since that time, he's tried to take oregano oil in the mouth, and he can't take it. It's so powerful, because he was taking it straight, remember, and he couldn't take it in the mouth. But he said then, when it was in the middle of this heart attack, he said he had no idea that it was going in. He didn't even feel it. He didn't taste it. But it brought him out of the heart attack. And there's another thing too, which I haven't got any here, but I'll tell you while I'm thinking of it, is turmeric. We had a class once again, and in the class we gave them a lunch, and in the lunch we had pumpkin soup, which has in it, which I know I put it in because I made it. In it, pumpkin soup, and I had in it cashews to give it that creamy taste. As anybody who knows how you blend cashews with it. And he didn't know that there was cashews in it, and he was this boy, he's about 8, he was allergic to cashews. Anaphylactic shock immediately. He couldn't breathe. And there was a lady there, she was doing the class, she was taking the class because she was a visiting herbalist. And she said, quick, get some turmeric powder. Turmeric powder, put it in a bit of water, drank it, and within probably a minute or so he was out of the anaphylactic shock. Turmeric. I believe cayenne probably would work too. I'm sure it would too. But turmeric would work. So why? Because it dilates the bronchioles. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah. That's right. So I'm sorry, it's just that this air conditioner is in my ears here and it's sort of loud. Okay, I can hear this. I can't hear quite at the back down there. I'm not as clear. Okay, so that is cayenne. Another one too, that's what I was going to tell you. Drinking it internally, very good for circulation. There was one of the ladies I know, and I wrote this up. I've got some newsletters. Some people might be aware of that, but if you go online to my website, in the front of my book, you'll find a web address, and you'll find all my newsletters there. You can download them. And one lady, she was in her mid-50s, and she was going through change of life, and she was having excessive heavy bleeding. And she'd been having this heavy bleeding for about 18 months. And she went to a naturopath, and the naturopath told her 3 teaspoons of cayenne pepper every hour, on the hour, for 3 days. 3 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. And she said she drank it in soya milk, and it was much easier to drink. And she said at the end of 3 days, immediately her bleeding stopped. She said she had some emotional stuff she had to work through with her mother-in-law, with some just emotional stuff, but she said it worked. She could swear by cayenne pepper. 3 teaspoons every hour on the hour, but she gave herself the night off. She allowed herself. Yeah, okay. But did you know that there was a lady, this nurse I told you had the cayenne pepper on the poultice on the lower back. She came around one night and she said to me, Kaye, my elderly mother is having a bowel bleed. She said she goes into hospital periodically. The doctors don't know what causes this bowel bleed. She's usually in hospital for 10 days and then she comes out. She said, and it just happens again another 9 months' time. It just happens. I don't know what it is, she said. And I said to give her, she said, she's just started this bowel bleed. I said, give her some cayenne pepper. So she gave her some cayenne pepper, and she only gave her 2 drinks that night. Now, this was probably about 8:30 at night when she picked up the cayenne pepper from my place, because she just lived not too far. Anyhow, she went around and she told me that she got back to me and she said that night she gave her mother 2 doses. In the morning, she said, then she let her mother go to sleep. And in the morning, she said she got up and she said to her mother, and her mother says, I'll go to the hospital. So, okay, they went to the hospital. But they were in the hospital, and all of a sudden, she said it was a day later and the bleeding had stopped. It never stopped like that before. And she said, I absolutely know it was the cayenne. I know it was. So you can see that cayenne does work. I actually used a cayenne as a heating poultice on some over in Tonga. A guy he dived into the ocean, and it was too shallow, and he hurt his neck, and he was walking around like this. He couldn't move. He couldn't do this. And so I got him out of the audience, and I put a cayenne poultice on the back of his neck like that. And in the morning, I saw him again, and I said to his daughters, I said, your dad's still got the poultice over his neck. Why? Oh, it felt so good. He put it back on again, and he said now he can move his neck like that. So you can see, you've got to try. Until you try all these things, you don't know that they work until you realise how good they are. Because remember I said they're God's remedies, and he blesses them. Okay, I want to talk to you now about charcoal. I've got some charcoal. Now, charcoal, what's the difference between... is charcoal... This is called activated charcoal. Does anybody know the difference between activated charcoal and wood charcoal from your fire? You can eat wood charcoal from your fire too. Okay, you're on the right track. Okay, wood from your fire will work. I can remember one of my sons went over to visit. I had one son who was married and living in Adelaide, and my other son went across to visit him. He went across in a bus. We arrived a few days later, and we found him. He was so sick. He'd eaten something on the way over, and he got food poisoning, and he was vomiting, and he had diarrhea, and he was sick. And he said, oh, I feel so sick, and I didn't have anything there. And I went to the fireplace, because they had a wood fire, and I got some wood out of the fireplace. I put it on a breadboard, I got the hammer on it, tapped it up, got the rolling pin, and I got it. Then the next step was I put it in a blender to get it as fine as I could, to get it sorted to powder. It wasn't ultra fine powder, but it was close-ish. Okay, and I gave it to him to drink. And he came back half an hour later. He says, you know what? That feels so good. Can I have another dose? That it works. And the same boy said he was out camping with a whole group of young men once, and he said they all got stomach upsets, and he told them, get some wood out of the fire. And they wouldn't do it. No, you're crazy. But he went and got it, and one of his close friends got it, and they were the only ones who didn't get the whole. Okay, so wood fire works, but activated charcoal works better. Why? Now, I don't know if you can see this. This is an activated charcoal molecule. Can you see that on the camera? Okay, so what it is, if you see, let's just imagine a molecule is like a round ball, shaped like a sphere, a ball. Well, this has got so many crevices and valleys and whatever you call it in the side of it, that it actually gives you such a large surface area. Now, all of those hollows and all of those spaces in there and those little crevices have a magnetic pull to it. So they are, when you have and you drink charcoal, what it does, it actually, and the word is adsorb. It doesn't absorb it, it adsorbs, meaning it's like Velcro. Holds on it's got a magnetic pull. So when you drink charcoal, it has a magnetic pull. So it is going to pull all toxins in your system onto that charcoal. It's going to bind it to the charcoal, and when you eliminate it, you go to the toilet. Simple as that. Couple of things you must know. You do not take it with medication, because it will absorb all the medication. It's so powerful. And you must take it away, as I said, away from medication. I would take it within 2 hours either side of your medication. So if you've got your medication there and there, 2 hours in between you could take your charcoal. So just remember that. And the other thing is you need to drink quite a bit of water with it, because it actually could constipate you. It has if you're not drinking enough water, that has a problem, and it will constipate. So make sure when you drink a teaspoon of charcoal water, drink 2 teaspoons, 2 cups of water, or a really good cup of water. So activated charcoal is burnt much deeper. It's burnt in a vat. They use pressure, they use steam, and they use a lack of oxygen. And the crevices and the valleys and all the holes and everything in that surface of the charcoal molecule, which is absolutely microscopic, you can't see it, but it becomes so great, and it's about 2.5 times stronger than wood charcoal. So it's, as I said, it's really strong. So you need to realise that it works. So how are you going to take it? We'll just think of it internally. We're going to take it internally for any food poisoning. Did you know that if somebody goes to the hospital with an overdose, what do they give him? Charcoal. They pump them full of charcoal. They just go... and what you have to understand, I can remember an elderly man once, he was drinking charcoal water, and he got a bit frightened, because his error was, if anything black comes out of the back passage, he said, you go to the doctor. It's you got problems. So he ran to the doctor. Just remember, you take this internally, you're going to go, it's going to be black coming out the other end. Okay, just remember, there's a result of it. But you can actually use it to work out how long your transit time. How long does it take for your food to get through your body? And mostly we don't know. We just go. But when you take charcoal, you can see exactly where it starts. So you can take it internally. So, food poisoning mostly. I would also take it for, if I was going to do a detox, take it then. So you can take it quite easily for a detox. But drug overdose, food poisoning, vomiting, diarrhea.
I also created, sorry to interrupt, a homemade natural activated charcoal soap.
Yeah, they're great.
They're brilliant for just removing excess oils, toxins.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anyone who goes to the gym or sweats, it's brilliant for
Yep.
girls, teenagers, boys with acne, severe acne. It's brilliant for that.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. Yeah, sure. I agree with you. Very good. Yeah. So charcoal, and it's so inexpensive. You think of all this. You just look at them. Very few of these cost a lot of money. And God has created it that way so that everybody, it doesn't matter that you haven't got money. You've got access to a wood fire somewhere along the line. Or if you haven't got access to, we'll talk about, you've got access to weeds. It's so simple. God has made it so simple that we can actually be healed very, very easily, or helped very, very easily. Now, charcoal poultices. How do we make a charcoal poultice? Look, I have done these so often. I can do them with my eyes shut now, which I don't want to do, because I tell you what, charcoal, I'm not going to open that. I'm going to tell you something. If I open that, this is so fine, it won't be long and there'll be charcoal bits everywhere. Now, if I'm going to make a poultice, you can get charcoal. There's a couple of ways you can take it. Remember I said you can take this internally? How would I take it internally? I would put a teaspoon of charcoal in a glass jar. Why a glass jar? You can put it in a cup if you want to, but guess what? It just floats to the top. Very hard to stir in. That's why I'm putting it in a glass jar. So I'm going to put it in the glass jar, put the lid on carefully and tight, remembering to do all this over the sink, because I tell you what, it has a habit to, the lid's not on properly and you shake it and guess what? It's everywhere. Has happened quite often. So you put the lid on properly, just shake it up and then you just drink it. That is ideal for an upset stomach. Any food poisoning, any bit of diarrhea, anything like that, you need to understand, have it on hand. Charcoal, it's worthwhile. And charcoal doesn't have a use-by date. If it was 30 years old, if you had it in a proper container with a sealed lid, that is not absorbing stuff, it's going to stay effective. Even if it says used by whatever, I don't know if this doesn't have a use-by date on this, because you don't have a use-by date. Oh, here it is, best before 2031. Now that would have been probably 20 years ago. No, it wouldn't be that far. It would be close to that. Look, it doesn't have a best before date. Yeah, look, what I would do, if you wanted to, I'll rephrase that. Let's say you've got an old esky and you want to get the smell out of it. You just put a bit of charcoal in a bit of water and put that in a container and sit it in there. It'll actually absorb all the smells into that. So the idea of this is you have to have the lid on tight. I can remember we were treating a woman. We had a whole group of church women there's a lady with breast cancer and she needed help and she was trying to do it alone, and we were doing poultices on her breast, and one woman decided to get all excited. She'd go in and she made a week's supply of poultices up and put them in the fridge. And I went and I said, the whole lot of ruin. They've all absorbed all the odours from the fridge. That's what they do. That's their properties. They will absorb everything into them. So what do I do? To make a poultice on the outside of your body with charcoal, you can actually just, let's say you got a spoon in here and you got a bowl, you can put a bit of charcoal in there and you can mix it in with water to make a paste. I generally would add in either flaxseed, ground flaxseed is good, although I've used whole flaxseed at times, or I've used psyllium. Now psyllium is excellent. You know what psyllium is? Psyllium from the shop. Okay, psyllium. Okay, and you add water and you make a paste. And I tell you what, absolutely incredible. You put about, for your charcoal, you put about a half a cup of charcoal, four tablespoons of charcoal to 1 teaspoon of psyllium, and you add maybe about a cup of water, half a cup of water, and you just mix that in. Not a heap teaspoon, it's just a teaspoon, just an ordinary teaspoon. 4 tablespoons, about a teaspoon. This is in my book. The recipe is in my book, how much to use. But if it's not, sometimes you maybe haven't measured it as accurately as that and it comes out a little bit stiff, you just add a bit more water. And I'll tell you what, I have done so many of these. I did these on my husband. I got some snap lock bags. Now you can get little snap lock bags, or you can get the larger snap. I got them, the ones that are about that size. They're a tiny bit bigger than sandwich size bags. They had a double zip. I can't remember what brand they are, but they're a bluish colour. Okay? And they have a double zip up there. And what I was doing is I would put in maybe a quarter of a cup of charcoal, and I would maybe put in 2 teaspoons of psyllium, and then on the instructions I would say add 1 cup of water. So I would put all those dry ingredients in there And I would do it all one day because I had my gloves on. I would use rubber gloves and I would just go and I'd do it all. But I didn't put any water in them. I left them dry. I sealed them up, and then when I wanted to use them, I would just go and grab it. It's already mixed up. So I would just tip in the water, carefully reseal it, because once again, you've got to be careful because I'm shaking it a little bit. I'm going to shake it, move it around. Then I lie it flat on the counter or on the sink. I'm doing it all on the sink. And then I'm cutting the top open with a pair of scissors. And then that poultice, I actually lie in a chucks like this, and I bring the chucks out and make a little parcel on it. So it's got a bit of plastic in there, but the plastic is not on the skin. The part that's on the skin is straight charcoal. That's only got one thickness between it. So I put it over wherever I'm going to put it on. And it's so easy because you've got it already mixed up. And then what I used to do is I just put that over there. I'd have a sheet of plastic, usually just a thicker piece of plastic bag, one of the shopping bags you get from, you go and something from wherever. And I just put that belt over it, and for every day I would be doing this on my husband. It was so easy as far as to do it because we just got so used to it, and it was so easy to hold in place. Just kept on really good. You could do it also over the kidney area. Now, remember I told you that lady, she made this big belt for her to put it in the kidney area? You could use the one that I had, but it would be good because you've got two kidneys, okay? You're going to put this on one kidney, and then you'd make another one on the other kidney. And she had little pockets made, and she used curtain material for the pockets. So she could just slip that in there, and so then she would Velcro it around her, and she put it on. Because she was facing kidney dialysis. And you know what, when you put this on, kidneys, do you know what, when you first do it, there are times when people you can even take them off after you put them on, and you can smell the urine in it. So you can, actually I've got a whole protocol for people who have got kidney problems, they're facing kidney dialysis. You can get your kidney function back pretty good if you do this protocol. So it's hot and colds on the kidneys areas. Plus, you've got to do a proper diet. You've got to get your diet right. Yeah. So. Internally too, taking charcoal lowers blood cholesterol too. People who've got problems with blood cholesterol. You can take this for any snake bite, any spider bite, anything like that, charcoal. I remember in my book, I think there is this I can't remember the names, Bertrand and Toury. Toury is from France, Bertrand was from England. One of them swallowed 15 grams of strychnine just in front of his peers in a school, in a medical school, just to show you that charcoal renders strychnine ineffective. It renders cobra venom ineffective. Any snake bites, it will just render them ineffective. It is the unit. Everybody needs to have charcoal in their house. You never know when you need it. And you're going to need it one day when you haven't got it. But bear in mind, you can go and you can use it from your wood, your fireplace. But then who's got time to quickly go and roll it out and crumble it up and that? Your grandson's taken an overdose. What do you want to do? Quickly get the charcoal into them. How much do you put into them? Every 10 minutes you'd need to give them a drink. Just get it into them. And if you couldn't get it, sometimes it's easier to get them into it if you put them give them to it in a straw, drinking through a straw. But you've got to get it into them. really, the charcoal.
Pure nature, $16 a kilo.
How much?
Pure nature.
$16 a kilo. Where from?
Pure nature, New Zealand. They're based in Avondale,
That's activated charcoal?
I think, yeah, activated charcoal.
It's food safe because they pure nature will not make it out food safe.
Yeah.
Food quality. It's right. Yeah. Excuse me, I say it's not just
Okay, that's a pretty good price. How much? 16? Yeah, that's a really good price. Get some. Get it. Always have it on hand. Store it properly. Put it in a glass jar or something. Don't just leave it in a plastic bag if it comes in plastic. Store it properly. Keep it, and it'll last you indefinitely. Put a proper lid on it. Have it there. And just say to them, look, this stays there. This is my charcoal supply. And start taking it. You can take it every week. It's not going to hurt you. Tastes like, okay, not real. Charcoal tastes like charcoal. It's not obnoxious, put it that way. It tastes all right. Pardon? Just drink it in water. Don't worry about any flavours, no. Nothing with it, just drink it. Just drink it. But you know another way too, did you know that you can actually, let's say you get a tea bag, cut the tea bag open and empty the tea out. You can put probably about half a teaspoon of charcoal in there, fold the little tea bag over, and if you've got a toothache, you put it inside your mouth. Let's say you've got a toothache there, you put the tea bag in there, and you allow your cheek to hold it in place. Guess what? It takes the pain out of toothache. So, I'm not saying you don't have to ever go to the dentist, but I'm just saying it'll take that infection out because it absorbs. It's very similar in a way that potato is. It absorbs infection. It absorbs stuff. But remember, internally, don't take charcoal with medication. Don't take it with medication. And did you know that it actually can purify water? If you have water, and let's say you had fluoride or something impure in your water, you can actually throw a lump of wood, charcoal wood, in there, and you know it'll actually purify your water? Because what? It draws all the toxins into itself. Okay, now I'm just going to do a few more. I've got here, by the way, here I've got some charcoal tablets. Now I brought them with me, and I normally take charcoal. If I'm home, I'll take charcoal powder. But if you're travelling, charcoal tablets are ideal. Because I've gone away, I remember having a bottle of charcoal tablets, and a fellow we were at camp meetings, and a fellow was there and he got an upset stomach, and he was an old man, and he was just, and I said, here, have these, take these, and I gave him the bottle. He was so happy. He says, because that stopped him. He came good. And I have these with me because it's so much easier if you're in a situation where you can't take that, put it in a jar, you haven't got water, and you know, it gets everywhere, it jumps all over the place because it's so messy. You can just slip a few tablets in your mouth. I've recently watched a online podcast, and this fella, he was been taking charcoal for some years, and he takes up to 10 teaspoons a day, and he said it's working wonders on him. And I thought to myself, wow, that's a lot. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about bentonite clay. Bentonite clay powder. Now this is clay. Bentonite clay. There's two sorts of bentonite. Well, there's more, but there's sodium bentonite clay and calcium bentonite clay. And what is the difference? I just can't remember. Yes?
Just to let you know that if you want food, say internal use, charcoal, eternite clay, any of the clays actually, there's a place I get it from in Whangarei, it's online, it's called Plants. B for Vita, L for Lena, A for Apple, N Nelly, T for Sally. So plants.co.nz. And they sell a lot of these types of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
There's Blances available in Australia
Yes,
too.
Australian brand as well.
Yeah. So,
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah. So the Pure Nature one's not. And I get a lot of stuff from Pure Nature myself. Oh no, that's right. No, I get a lot of stuff from them myself, but for work, but only for external use. Most of their stuff, even their herbs and everything, say external use on them.
okay, so sodium bentonite clay draws more toxins out of the skin. Calcium bentonite clay is gentler and applies more minerals. It actually binds. What's the difference between clay and charcoal? Very similar, little bit different. Clay binds aflatoxin, which is a mold toxins. Charcoal binds an endotoxin, which is a bacteria toxin. So they just do slightly different things. Now, you probably don't know I don't know what toxin I've got. Well, guess what? Just take either or. You can actually blend them together. I find this one easier to take because I make this up ahead of time. I've got a bottle of this ready as a concentrate in my cupboard. I suppose I could do that with this one too. But I I make a mixture up of 1 part of clay to 10 parts of water. I put them in a blender. I blend it and I add that into a bottle with a lid, screw top lid, and I leave that in my cupboard, and I use that much in water, and I just I use that much clay and I just add water to it, and I drink it, and guess what? Just goes down. It's just like tasting like chalky water, and it just same thing. It does very similar to what charcoal does, but it is really similar but a little bit different. But they both work. They both work. Yep. Bacteria toxins or endotoxins, and mycotoxins, which are fungi. And mycotoxins, yeah. Mycotoxins, yeah. Which are fungi. So fungi and bacteria. So charcoal binds, yeah. Aflatoxin, which is a different mold toxin. But they're binding different things. But you'll find in my book, I've got lots and lots of what you can use all these things for. Calcium, so look, don't get yourself too concerned about it. Doesn't matter which one you use. Sodium bentonite clay or calcium bentonite clay. They both work similarly. Don't stress out about it. One's a little bit gentler, one's not, but they both work very similar. Yeah, that's a bit different. Okay, this is bentonite clay. And you'll find that bentonite, I don't know if my mineralite is actually stays in suspension, because I know I had one there that it's the clay drops to the bottom and there's this film of water on it if you mix it with water. But this one stays in solution. Now, what I do with this, there's 2 things I do. I drink it internally, works like clay or like charcoal, or I put it on the outside of my skin, and it's great because it actually doesn't, like clay, it just goes everywhere and it blackens everything. This one I can just get it and I just put it over, and I can get it. I usually have, and when I'm mixing it up, I usually mix it up to 1 part of clay to maybe 3 parts of water. It can need more, because the longer it sits, the more water it will absorb. So you need more and more water as you're getting more, as it's sitting there. But I can actually, and don't if you mix it up, and I usually mix, I've got a little container at home that I have clay mixed up in. Why? Because it's great for any spider bites, insect bites, anything that stings or anything like that. You just put it on. But don't get your finger in there like that and just put it on. Because you come back a month later, it'll be all mouldy. Because it's pulled the mould off your finger when you dip it in. So what you've got to do is you've got to use a spatula all the time when you're getting things out of there, and you just put it on your body, wherever. And I can remember being bit by a bee. The moment the bee bite, you just pop it on there. An ant bite, straight on. Yeah, you can do it with charcoal, right? Either or. Once again, it's not an idea to mix this with medication. You can put this on your face mask. You can make it a little bit thinner. When it dries, now when you put this on the outside of your body, you'll cake it on, and sometimes you put it on a bit thinner. You let it wait until it dries. When it dries, it's done its work. But this you can make into a paste, and you can fade tattoos with this. You've got to persevere. It's going to take time. But persevere with it. Fade your tattoos. One lady, she was telling me that she half faded her tattoo, then she didn't do it anymore because she got pregnant and she just got sidetracked and sort of thing. But I'm just waiting for somebody to come back to me and tell me, oh, they faded their tattoo with it. But I know it does. It pulls ink out. Eczema possibly would help. I don't know for sure. I can't tell you that one. I don't know. Eczema is something internal. You've got to hit it internally and externally too, I suppose. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Although I would take it away from that too. I would take them away for anything. I would take charcoal and clay by themselves. I actually if I'm going to take this, I'll take it first thing in the morning. You know, when I get up, away from anything. Yes, yes, yes. This one, the bentonite clay has got a slightly greenish tinge to this. This has got a slightly bony tinge to it. It's more of a beige. But they both work. But, you know, you can use this as toothpaste. You know, you can dip a wet toothbrush in and clean your teeth with it. And you can do that with charcoal. But I believe I've done charcoal one, and I tell you what, it gets everywhere. And you've got to clean it up, you see, haven't you? And I've done a bath with charcoal, and I don't think I'll ever do a bath again. For that same reason, because it makes such a mess. But I've done many clay baths, and the clay baths seem to work. And somebody said you've got to watch it with your pipes. Quite frankly, I've never watched it with my pipes, and I've never got a clog up, but I've got good sewerage, okay, so I don't know. But because it stays in suspension, and I'm not using heaps and heaps of clay. Like, I mean, I may be using 2 cups of clay to a bath full of water. Or you could use clay as a wrap. That will get it much more concentrated on your skin, so you can use them. But I can remember I had this clay mixed up into a little container, and I was in Fiji, and there was a lady there. She had it was a place where they take in people for recovering things. What do you call it? Gabe and Kessa's place. 3 Angels Medical Missionary School. Okay, they were teaching people how to cleanse and detox, and there was a lady there who was this little round lady, and she had a few rolls of fat here, and she told me, and she showed me, she lifted up this roll of fat there, and she said, guess what? There were some ulcers there. She said, they hurt so much. And so I got some clay, and I just went over and I just put a spatula on the clay, and she went like that. Oh, that feels so good. Just took the pain away. Another friend, she was having. She said she was walking outside in her backyard, and she was walking with her sandals, but she said she ran up underneath her toe some Rio. You know what I'm talking about? Rio wire. Okay, it was wire. She said it speared up underneath her toenail. She said, wow, she said it just took her pain away. But she had clay inside. She put on, and she said instantaneously it took the pain away. And she said it healed very quickly. Skin tags, yes, skin tags I would actually tie them off with cotton. I would. I'd just, starve the blood flow to it. Just tie it off, or get someone to help you, because often they're in an awkward place. You need to get somebody to tie them off tight. Or, I tell you what, when you get older, those of you who are old know that you get little sort of growths on your body that are really they're not really a mole, but they're sort of look like a mole, but they're in. And somebody from the audience last week says, oh, they're barnacles. So I like that description of them. They're barnacles. He says, and if you want to get barnacles off, actually you use garlic. And I haven't touched on garlic here. I've forgotten about that one. You use garlic, and you actually put the garlic, and you can peel the garlic, get a sliver of garlic, crisscross a Band-Aid over that sliver of garlic, put it on your skin, and it will blister. But that blister is going to bring all those little barnacle things off. We're peeling them off through blisters. And so you can use garlic as well. I'm very careful to use garlic straight on the skin because it blisters. It blisters and burns. They say it's the poultice of choice for whooping cough on babies, but you must be careful to coat the skin with oil. Yeah, and then I would even put a cloth, not even this cloth, I'd put a bit of sheet cloth. I'd put the slivers of garlic in there, and I'd just put it on the baby's feet, because the babies have got little feet, like tiny little feet like that. So you could have them in garlic. And the other thing too, they say that you can use garlic as a suppository for thrush for women, or you can actually put it in your ear as for earache too. You just coat a little bit of garlic, but I actually prefer garlic oil in the ear. You just cut up a little bit of garlic in a small jar, just maybe one clove is enough. Put maybe about a couple of teaspoons of olive oil over it, shake it, leave it there for about 3 days, come back and get a dropper, put it in a little bottle like that. You'll only get about that much of it, but that's enough. And you just put that in the ear. And that's great for earaches, any ear problems. Okay, let me just think, what else have I got here? Oh, I've forgotten that. Probably I'll finish on this one, because this is a really good one. Comfrey. Does anyone know what comfrey is? What does comfrey look like? Comfrey is a herb that you really need to understand. It's called knitbone. It is a wonderful herb to have. What do you use it for? Anytime anyone has broken a bone, it can actually be used to any tendons, any sprains, any strains, you can rub it on, but usually it's for broken bones, and you can put it on you can wear it on the as a poultice. You can take it internally. You can have it as I'll tell you a story about. Had a friend. She broke her kneecap. She shattered her kneecap. she was trying to learn to ride a motorbike, and they forgot to tell her how to stop. So she smashed her kneecap. And so she went into hospital, and they were going to take a part of a hip bone and replace and re-put the hip bone back and give her the hip bone as a kneecap. Okay, she went into hospital. She was taken into operation. The surgeon looked on the operating table. He says, "Oh, I'm not operating on this. It's too swollen." So she went back to her ward. Her husband says, "We're out of here." They went home to Michael and Barbara O'Neill's, and Barbara used her girls. Now, this was a friend of mine too, as well as Barbara is a friend of Barbara's. And she was on the couch I saw her 5 weeks after she'd had that accident, and she was walking on with her knee cap still in place, walking around with a walking frame. She told me, and they got before and after x-rays. She had a shattered kneecap. After they poulticed her, and they kept poulticing her all the time, and they didn't have the leaves, they used the root. And she said the kneecap came back completely normal. Now, I said, "What did it feel like, Katie?" And she said, "It felt like when you're pregnant with a baby and it just moves inside you." She said, "I had no control of it." She said, "I just felt the bones moving together." Isn't it God's gift for people? You can use it for bulging discs. There's another story. I had a lady, I knew this lady, but one of my friends said this lady had a protruding disc, and she went to visit her, because this lady was in agony. They told her she had to have a back operation, and she didn't want to have it. So my friend went to visit her, and 5 times a day she did hydrotherapy on her, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow night. But the other time, in between the hydrotherapy, overnight, she put comfrey poultices on. Now, that comfrey poultice will actually regenerate, and it will work on that bulging disc too. And probably, I think it was only maybe about, I've forgotten whether it was 6 weeks or 2 months later, she went back to the doctor, and he says, "I can't believe this. I've never seen this before." So you can see that all these things, this comfrey is absolutely essential. If you need to know this knowledge. Do you know comfrey poultice is the poultice of choice if you've got lung cancer? So, they even said I had a visit from a lady, and her and her son came, and her second husband came, and this lady was talking about she was really into herbs. She said her first husband cut off the tips of his finger with his circular saw. She knew that she needed to put a mixture of comfrey, wheat germ oil, and honey on it. And she said, would you believe they started to regrow? They regrew. Okay? And I've heard this before. I've heard this many times in my herb books. I know that this happens. But the point of it is you must not let that dry out. It must stay wet. The moment it dries out, it will form a scab and it will heal. Okay, we don't want it to heal. So you just keep packing this comfrey on it all the time. And this comfrey and this honey and this wheat germ oil. You could use slippery elm in there too. That will work too. But, and she said it didn't finish healing to the tips because she said he got a little bit lazy. She went to hospital. She had her teeth done in hospital. And she says he couldn't be bothered to do it anymore, so he let them dry out. So they never finished healing. And I was so stunned at this. This is the first time I'd ever heard it. And I turned to her son, who was about 18. I said, do you remember that? And he says, yeah, I remember it. So I'm just saying to you that it's not the first case. I know I've heard of other people that happening to, but for me to meet somebody who had actually practiced it and done it was really something, because it's like a first-hand experience of seeing it done. They said yes. And I can remember Agatha Thrash interviewing Agatha Thrash is passed away now, but she's a Seventh-day Adventist doctor from America who ran Uchi Pines, and she said one of her staff members cut off his fingers too, and once again he did the same. And she said, look at him. He said, look, I can play the guitar now with this hand. This is the hand where I cut the fingers off. I can't remember how long that took. I've forgotten, but it definitely comes back, definitely. But you cannot let it dry out. You need to know these little things. How important is it to you? So, comfrey restores tissues. It's very good for arthritic conditions. You can use it if you've broken any bones. Sometimes I've seen a girl, she had a broken bone and she was a naturopath, and she said what she did is she got the doctors to do 2 half casts, and she actually bandaged it up to keep it in place. But in between, she would take it off and she would do a comfrey poultice over her wrist. And it just healed so quickly. But you could, if you had the plaster cast over your wrist, you could take comfrey internally. That would be fine too. Comfrey is something you've really got to grow yourself. I don't know if you can grow it here in New Zealand. Okay, I would actually dry it off. You can have it green, like fresh, made as a poultice. It dies off in the winter time, so you can get the root, and I would put the root there, or you can actually dry it off. Now, once earlier on, I just put the wet leaves in oil and soaked them, and I came back probably 3 months later and it was all mouldy. Okay, the wet leaves are too wet, forms mould. If you want to make oil, you need to dehydrate your leaves first, dry your leaves, and then soak that in oil. And you soak it for about 6 weeks. You come back and you'll have slightly green tinted oil. I've actually got that oil. I've put different herbs, different comfrey herbs in it, and kept soaking that for 3 times. So I've got triple strength comfrey oil at home, and it is green as green can be. So you'll find that once you do this, you can get very, very strong properties from that comfrey. Yeah, use that if you've got to do your... Look, I mean, not everybody can do what I'm doing. Yeah, buy it if you have to. Then you soak it in oil, but you need to have the leaves submerged. You need to make sure there's oil on the top, so they're covered. And yeah, I would dehydrate them. I like mine dehydrated because they dehydrate quicker.
And then just heal as well.
Yeah. 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 Okay, so look, there's probably a few more I could tell you. There's one more I can tell you about is, no, I won't be talking to you about that, is borax. Borax from your supermarket. Put it in a capsule. Excellent for vaginal thrush. Oil pulling, have you heard about oil pulling? Oil pulling is excellent to detox your body. You've got ginger poultices, look, they're in my book. I can't go through all of them. Epsom salts, another thing. Super tonic. Somebody was talking to me about what's a super tonic. Well, you put in. If you got somebody with colds or coughs, you put in maybe 3 jalapeno peppers, whole, everything, with the seeds and everything. throw them in a blender, put in a whole bulb of garlic in a blender, maybe one or two whole onions in a blender, maybe about that much ginger in a blender. Just cover it with apple cider vinegar and just blend it and take it, and it will blow your socks off. It really does. It's so powerful it rusts out your lid. It rusts the lid out of your jar that you've got it in. Honestly, it did to me. It really rusted out my lid of the jar. It is so powerful. So, yeah, it is very powerful. You can strain it. You don't have to strain it. But I remember having one class, and I had a teaspoon, and I said, "Would you like to taste it?" And they went out, and one woman says, "Ooh," and another woman says, "Ooh, that'd make nice salad dressing." So if you like things hot, you'll like this. But if you don't like things hot, you'll go, "Ooh, that's too hot." But then there's one woman, she rang me back, and she said, "That was it. I went home," and she said, "all my sinuses were cleared." She said, "I took this." She said, "I need that recipe and I've lost it." So she said, "It'll clear your sinuses out." So, yeah, yeah. Maybe not all the herbs. Not every single herb. Some of the herbs, I'm not saying all. Herbs I haven't gone into detail because there's so many herb books out there that if you're really interested, you get all the information out there in the herb books. But all the poultices I've definitely got covered in my book. And I've got the hydrotherapy, which I'm talking about tomorrow night. I've got that covered. But that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't come back, because what I do, and I don't have them in the book, are these anecdotes. And I believe that those anecdotes just add something to you, because I tell you, well, this is what happened to this person. Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll leave it there tonight. You've been a good audience. Okay, thank you, Kim.
Great. Well, so much information. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kaye. So, I know we talked a lot of tonight. We will have it on the recording on YouTube at some stage, so if you need to, on our YouTube channel, ones that I said there for some comments. So, tomorrow night is Kaye Sehm. We have over here another fantastic cheap type of remedy to use. Water.
Yeah.
So it'd be amazing to actually see what we can do with that for helping as well. So,
Ha-
and of course, if you want the other information, Sunday we'll have the news and helpful replay, and then over the weekend, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, 2:30, and Saturday at 4:30, we have
Okay, that's a love of mine, because I'm coming across so many people who've got a lot of emotional damage. How do we get rid of emotional damage? And that on the weekend I'm dealing with the emotions. So how is your knee there with that comfrey, with that cayenne poultice on it?
How's your knee?
Okay, well just let us know how much you. Yes, leave it on overnight.
Look forward to a report tomorrow. All right, thank you, everybody. So if we can maybe just close our eyes and say to the down. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for the amazing opportunity we've had. Thank you, Kaye, for all that you've given us tonight. And we know that, as you reminded us, you created all of these items that you do, and the amazing healing properties that they contain that can really help us in our lives. We ask the same thing in your time.
Amen.
Everybody, take care. Hopefully see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I see tomorrow, give them the potato.
Okay.
Thanks for all the information, Kaye. Is that your book?
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I've got 5 kids, and I want 5 books for all of them.
There you are.
Yeah. Yeah, have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
You know how you talked about anaphylactic shock?
Yeah.
It's allergic to something. Did you say turmeric?
Turmeric.
Because my grandson's allergic to walnuts.
Yeah.
So for next time, I just give him a bit of tea.
Yeah, yeah. Try it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Turmeric or as I said, even you could do cayenne, anything that bronchial dilates the bronchioles. Yeah. You need to have it ready on hand. Yeah.
Cayenne pepper, I'm not sure.
You what?
I think he might drink the turmeric,
Yeah.
but the cayenne pepper,
Yeah.
because I use cayenne pepper too.
Yeah.